In this video, I'll show you how I made this stone wall block by block using XPS foam. Then we'll compare it to the wall I carved out of a foam panel using a soldering pen, and we'll see which one looks better. I built this wall using individual blocks that I cut out of some foam that I had left over from other projects. I cut them in a variety of different sizes using a blade knife, and then I gave them some texture with a crumpled up ball of tinfoil. Next, I gave them a base coat of acrylic paint. I was experimenting with different colors as the base coat, and I would suggest using a base color of grayish brown for all your blocks. But it doesn't really matter because, as you'll see, we'll be repainting the blocks later in the process. Make sure you paint not only the front of the blocks, but also part way down the sides as well. I didn't bother painting the backs. Here's a handful of painted blocks. Now we can start building the wall. For this sample wall, I just used a piece of cardboard for the backing. But depending on your project, I might suggest using something sturdier that won't warp, like these 1/8-inch thick woodcraft panels. This style of wall is called ashlar, where the stones have straight edges and are arranged horizontally in rows. As you build the wall, you might want to vary the way the blocks are stacked to create a more interesting stone pattern. But of course that depends on your project and what type of look you want. By the way, the pre-cut blocks aren't going to all fit perfectly into place. So as you build the wall, you're going to have to cut some blocks to size. So now the wall is done. It looks pretty weird with this strange mix of base colors, but don't worry. Next, we're going to paint all the blocks with different earth tone shades of acrylic paint, like beige, tan, khaki, brown, and gray. At this point, you might be wondering if it's even necessary to paint all the blocks before assembling the wall when you're just going to paint them again anyway. Well, the main reason why I suggest it is because when you pre-paint, you can paint the sides of the blocks way more easily than you can when the wall is finished, because you don't want to see even a speck of the underlying green foam. Here's how the wall's looking so far. We're getting there, just a few more steps. Next, I just use the same paints and blend additional colors to each stone for a more natural look. You don't want each block to be just a solid shade. I ended up adding more grayish tones to many of the blocks. The last step was to apply a speckling of white using a dry brush technique to give some highlights to the stones. Here's the finished wall. This is the wall I made by carving a foam panel with a soldering pen. I made a video about it and I'll link to it in the end screen. This style of stonework is called rubble, and it features more rounded and irregular stones in a random pattern. It's a more rustic and less formal look. I think making a rubble style wall like this out of individually carved foam stones would be a lot more difficult and time consuming than straight edge blocks. But if you'd like me to try and tackle that project, let me know in the comments and maybe I will. Here are the two walls together for comparison. I painted the block wall a bit more grayish than the more brownish carved wall. Which one do you think looks better? I think that if you're making an ashlar style wall featuring straight stones, then building it with individual foam blocks is the way to go. I think trying to carve that kind of wall in a foam panel using a soldering pen just wouldn't work. The spaces between the stones would be too big and it wouldn't look good. But I think a rubble style wall using a soldering pen works out just fine. I hope you found this video useful. Thanks for watching and have fun with your own projects.